He doesn't want this. This is not the life that he wants to live. And I understand the sentiment because it is excessive. It does get to be a lot, right? Like, I get it. But here's the thing. When the greatest current basketball player is a free agent and does not have a team, then guess what? We all sit around and try and figure out where that man is going to be playing basketball next. Like, that's just the way that the news works. That's just how it is. The news cycle is this. Like, when you remember when there was Ebola, and then we had Ebola coverage for a solid 7 days straight, and then suddenly the news just pivoted to the next thing. It was the biggest topic of the day, and LeBron James, I'm not trying to call him Ebola, but he is the biggest topic of the day. That's just where we are in the sports media. Welcome to the offseason, ladies and gentlemen. This is peak offseason like conversation, to the point where, quite frankly, we have overshadowed other people who are free agents. Paul George is going to be a free agent. He's a very good basketball player. I was talking to Sam Jordan before this, and I was saying, like, Paul George is a really good basketball player. Not that you would get the opportunity to necessarily know that the way that he played this past season, though I do think a lot of that has to do with playing with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, who I like, who I think is an incredible athlete, and who I think is an actual great basketball player, but I also think he's an awful teammate, and he is incredibly difficult to play with, to the point of making his teammates around him actually worse. And Paul George is no exception. Durant leaves, he gets better. Victor Oladipo leaves, he gets better. I expect that when Paul George leaves Oklahoma City, he will also get better. Like, I don't know if you were a star and you believe that you should be able to control the ball and control the tempo and control the pace and control the team, if you are willing to play second banana to Russell Westbrook, right? Like, he's not an easy person to get along with. He's an angry dude, yells a lot. Granted, I don't know if he yells at his teammates a lot, but I know he yells at fans, and that's the paying customer. Like, if you cannot stop yourself from yelling at the people who are the paying customers, I can't imagine that your teammates get the better end of this. Right? Like, I had a manager once in a place that I worked once. I'm not going to say any names, but he yelled at customers sometimes. We did have stupid customers. In fairness to him, we had some customers that were just beyond clueless, but they're the paying customer. You don't yell at the paying customer. And so, of course, it wasn't a shock when he yelled at us too. Right? Like, it wasn't surprising. In a certain pizza restaurant that shall go unnamed that I worked at once, right? Like, it happened, and we got into an argument that reached a level, and like and arguing in a pizza restaurant is the stupidest thing ever, because you both look silly. You're covered in pizza dough and flour, and you're yelling in front of an oven while pizzas are coming out of the little oven treadmill thing. Like, you feel dumb for what it is that you're doing. But if you're going to yell at the paying customers, then obviously you're going to yell at the people that you work with. So to me, I'm not shocked at this idea. I don't know if he actually does or not. Russell Westbrook yells at his teammates, but like, why wouldn't you assume that? And if I'm Paul George, I'm not putting up with that. Like, Paul George is a good enough player to not have to deal with all of that. He's beyond a good enough player to not have to deal with all of that. And yet, he did last year, and he's a free agent this year, and we don't talk about him because LeBron's a free agent. You know who else is a free agent? Kyrie Irving. We just completely forgot that Kyrie has a contract up at the end of this year, and Kyrie may not come back to Boston. It's a great fit. Boston is a team that was very good, has a great coach, went very far in the playoffs. They've got another superstar in Gordon Hayward if he can come back healthy. They've got Jason Tatum, their rookie player, who's developing into a star as well. They've got the talent on that team to do a lot of great things, maybe even win the Eastern Conference, whether or not LeBron comes back into the East, because he's going to be the guy you have to go through to get to the title, and they could. And potentially, if Jason Tatum comes far enough along, if Gordon Hayward is the player that he was before he destroyed his ankle, and if Kyrie is his usual Kyrie self, along with the other complementary pieces on that team, Al Horford and that coach, that's a team, like if that team went up against the Warriors, the Celtics, with Tatum, Hayward, Kyrie, Horford, Brad Stevens as coach, don't you give him a chance to beat the Warriors? Because I do. I think that's a deep enough, strong enough squad to beat Golden State. And Kyrie is looking after his money, which he should, because that is a job. You think that this is all about winning, and maybe it should be, but mostly, this is all about money. It's a job. And you try and get as much of the money as you possibly can for what it is that you do and what your skill set is. And Kyrie Irving is set to make $107 million if he opts into the contract with the Celtics. Kyrie Irving wants something in the ballpark of $200 million because that is the going rate of an NBA superstar. And someone will pay Kyrie Irving that if he is a free agent. Granted, it's going to be tough if you're Kyrie, because Kyrie has the injury problems. He struggles with the knee injury all the time. Can Kyrie Irving remain healthy enough to earn the contract that he would like? We've forgotten about him, but Isaiah Thomas, previously with the Boston Celtics, and I guess also now previously with the Los Angeles Lakers, he has bet on himself, and it didn't work. It didn't work. I mean, Isaiah Thomas stood to make a whole lot more money if he stayed in Boston than if they were forced to trade it, because he wanted more money than what they were planning on giving it. Had he not forced that situation, he'd probably still be there getting paid to be injured, just like Kyrie is, when you think about it. You're listening to All New Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com, 92.7 FM. So I understand if you're Charles Barkley and if you're anybody else that can relate, because Charles Barkley is pretty much like the everyman in a lot of situations. You can relate to the fact that we are talking about LeBron James way, way, way too much. But, like I said, he's the greatest active basketball player, so you're just going to have to put up with it. And that being said, there are a couple of landing spots that I didn't talk about him going to that I think would be fun, right? We talked about the Lakers, but we didn't seriously talk about the Lakers from the aspect of, can the Lakers be good enough to win ball games if LeBron goes there? Obviously, LeBron makes you a title contender the instant that he arrives on the scene. That's not the issue. The issue is, do the other guys on the Lakers give you enough to where you can contend for a title? You can think of yourself as going to a Western Conference Finals. And I'd have to say that you do, right? Because of Lonzo, which doesn't seem like it seems crazy, but it's not that crazy. Lonzo is an incredible playmaker, and Lonzo does all the stuff that LeBron has to, but he can't shoot the ball real well. So all you'd be asking LeBron to do is shoot. But all you'd be asking any of these other Lakers to do, if they're able to hang on to Julius Randle, who's also going to be a free agent, and we don't know if the Lakers want to bring him back. If they hang on to Kyle Kuzma, who's a good player. He's not great, but he's a good player. Like, this is a Lakers squad that's actually one really big name guy who knows how to win away from being a Western Conference Finals team, and LeBron could give you that. He could. And I think the Warriors are vulnerable. I mean, call me crazy. I know they swept the Cavs and they look powerful, and everyone that's just jumping on the back of Kevin Durant, and he took the easy way out. Like, this team did not easily walk to an NBA Finals. They look vulnerable. They have gaps. They've got weaknesses. They don't have a rim protector. The fact that they lose one of their best defenders when they lose Andre Iguodala, who is one of the oldest members of the team, so that you should expect to lose him a lot, is a problem. I mean, this is a team with serious flaws, but serious three-point shooting firepower to cover up those flaws and make it seem like it's not really there. We forget that they almost lost to the Houston Rockets. Like, if the Rockets go to the NBA Finals and not the Warriors, we're singing a different tune. We're singing a completely different tune. We're just revising history to make it seem like what we want it to seem, which to me is a bit silly, and short-sighted. Right? Like LeBron to the Lakers would be potentially incredibly fun. LeBron to the Knicks would also be really fun. I know that Nick LeFew does not like this idea. The Knicks are bad. The Knicks are bad. The Knicks are trash. And if you have a problem with, if you're LeBron and you have a problem with Dan Gilbert, who is a bad owner, Dan Gilbert is literally the worst owner in sports. You could make that very strong assertion. And it's a hard assertion to have to make in a world where James Dolan exists. It's a hard assertion to have to make in a world where Dan Snyder exists. But Dan Gilbert, the only good thing that ever happened to him was they drafted LeBron. Then LeBron leaves and goes to Miami. And Dan Gilbert tries to win a title because he wrote that stupid letter and put it on the team website and Comic Sans about how they were going to win a championship before the so-called king. And LeBron wins 2 in that 4-year span. The Cleveland Cavaliers pick number 1 overall 3 times. I mean, they're not just bad in that stretch. They're the worst basketball team in the league in that stretch by far. Because they drafted Kyrie, they drafted Anthony Bennett number 1, which, by the way, was a bad draft pick. And then they drafted Andrew Wiggins. I mean, they had 3 number 1 overall picks, which means they were not just bad, they were historically terrible. And then the only good thing that happened after that was that LeBron came back, where they won another title, went to 4 more finals. And if LeBron leaves, you can bet absolutely they're going to be the worst team in basketball again. I think that Dan Gilbert might actually be the worst basketball owner in the NBA. But it's hard to say if you're LeBron James that you're leaving Cleveland because your owner is terrible, that you're going to go to the New York Knicks and play for James Dolan, who is also bad. The difference, though, is I think that James Dolan is just trying to figure it out now. Like with Jerry Jones forever, Jerry Jones didn't know what he was doing, and he would tinker in all the football stuff, and he ruined his relationship with Jimmy Johnson, and he stopped the team that was winning titles from winning titles, and they never got back ever again. And then finally, after years and years and years of also being a terrible owner, Jerry Jones backed off and figured it out. I think Dolan's starting to figure it out. I do. You know, listen to all new radio, MidwayRadio.com here, 92.7 FM.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chatter, Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
3 Cleveland construction workers were hospitalized after a flash fire at a work site. Reports say it was a gas fire that ignited when a worker used a cigarette lighter. The 3 injured men were working on attaching hoses to kitchen appliances at the Legacy Senior Living Center in Cleveland when it happened. 67-year-old Jerry Alfred was arrested in Saudi Daisy. He's accused of child molestation. Saudi Daisy police say the department got a complaint last week saying he was involved in a sexual relationship with a juvenile. The age and identity of that juvenile will not be released for the protection of that individual. Lights out for Walnut Street Bridge illumination program. The city shut down the $4 million lighting proposal that would add data responsive lighting to the historic walking bridge. Instead, the administration will put $1.3 million of the hotel motel tax into upgrading the electric.
WPLZ HD4 Nuga Radio 92.7 FM. So okay. Lost some momentum there. But here's a story that I find very interesting, because I never thought that I would see it happen again. The United States will be hosting the 2026 World Cup, and FIFA is so corrupt as an organization But I never thought I'd see the United States host a World Cup again. Now, the United States is not going to be hosting the World Cup by themselves. They'll be hosting it alongside Canada and Mexico. The reason why I think that we should just go ahead and say that the United States is hosting the 2026 World Cup is this. There are 80 games. 80. The World Cup gives you a ton of games, which is the reason why TV contracts around the World Cup are just massive, massive deals. If you get it, you're paying a lot of money for that product. Right? Like the World Cup is a big deal. You get 80 games. Canada's getting 10 guaranteed games. Mexico's getting 10 guaranteed games. The United States is getting 60. The United States is hosting the World Cup. We're going to have to be intellectually honest about this. The United States is hosting the World Cup. And I just never thought that I would actually see that happen. But I do like the idea of a joint World Cup because I think it sets a really good precedent for countries that I don't think should ever have had World Cups by themselves. I don't think that South Africa should have had a World Cup by themselves. I don't believe that Brazil should have had a World Cup by themselves. They just didn't have the infrastructure to have the World Cup. They built a number of stadiums, I think at the expense of the Brazilian people, at the expense of the South African people, and now you just have these stadiums that they built for one event that are rotting away. No one's using them anymore. And I think if you had nations that hosted the World Cup together as a trio and just said, hey, we're three nations and we're pretty close to each other, and maybe by ourselves we don't have the infrastructure to host this event, but together we can, I think you end up with a lot less tragic of a situation like the one that you had in Brazil and the one that you had in South Africa. The World Cup this year is being hosted in Russia, and Russia can handle it. There are countries that host the World Cup, they can handle it, but there are some countries that can't. And I think that the U.S. and Mexico and Canada are setting a really good precedent here for if you want a chance to win, to host the World Cup, host it together. Grab two other countries near you and try and see if you can host it together. It's a great idea. It's going to work out well. I think you're going to draw in more fans from across the board, especially Mexico. Mexico cares about the World Cup so much more than we do. So much more than we do. And we care. We care because we are Americans. And even though soccer is not our game, soccer is not our bag, we love to dominate things and we love to win. It's not our game. But once we decide to show up, we might as well win. We might as well do that. So the U.S. hosting the World Cup in 2026. And here's the thing that is absolutely crazy about the fact that the U.S. has not hosted the World Cup previous to this. The United States of America has stadiums everywhere. We saw what happened with Qatar and South Africa and Brazil. All of these nations have to now rush to build soccer stadiums that they don't have because they just don't need them. It's not even a knock or a slight against those nations. They just don't need them. We have all of these stadiums that we are using. If you just decided to host the World Cup in the South and use only the SEC stadiums, you'd have enough room. You'd have more than enough room. If you decided to use Florida and Tennessee up in Knoxville and Alabama, I mean, if you just decided to do that, you would have more than enough room. I mean, you'd have to open up more hotels, but that's clearly not a problem. That's just easy money. You wouldn't have to build any stadiums. We have so many, more than enough. Now, the 2026 World Cup is going to have games all over the United States and all over Canada. I think that's cool as well. One of the stadiums that we'll be hosting is going to be Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta. So we're going to have a chance in this area, in about 8 years, to go down to Atlanta and enjoy some of the best that the World Cup has to offer. And I think that that's going to be incredible too. Also, Chattanooga, I hope you are ready for the influx of people who are not going to be able to stay in Atlanta and will be staying here. And they will make your traffic infinitely, infinitely worse. Here's the thing about hosting the World Cup that is not good. The people that actually live in the cities or in the surrounding cities of the places that are hosting the World Cup, yeah, your life gets worse. It's the untold story of the Super Bowl. If your city is hosting the Super Bowl, it's kind of cool, but everything gets to be less convenient for you. Your traffic gets worse. The noise is worse. Everybody's out of everything. There's no room anywhere. Everything gets to be so much less convenient for you if you are the person who has to host a Super Bowl or has to host a World Cup. And Atlanta will be hosting it. As I said, it's not going to get better for us. You see the nightmare that 75 is. And God forbid you work in Chattanooga and live down 75 in Georgia. You realize that your life is going to be a nightmare in 8 years. And it's going to be just hell. But we're doing it in the name of soccer and sports. There you go. But I can't believe the U.S. somehow got away with calling this a joint effort, and we are hosting 60 of the games. We're hosting 60 of the games. Like there's 10 going to be hosted in Canada, 10 in Mexico, 60 here for the total of 80 games. And I have to tell you, it doesn't seem right to me that all of these teams, that all of these countries are going to be hosting 10 games. Really? How is that sharing? How is that fair? But we just have so much more room than everybody else. Like we could use all our pro stadiums. We could use a lot of our Division I college stadiums. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We have it. We have it.
Traffic, news, and information. Nuga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4 and 92.7 FM. 3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Eastridge police say that there was a shooting at the Newcastle Apartments just off Springvale Road. Police rushed to the scene and found the victim on his way to the hospital. They intercepted him and rushed him there themselves. Police say they found 2 vehicles riddled with bullets and shell casings in the home of the victim. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office says a woman called 911 telling them there was a man on the roof of her car trying to break in. Police intercepted the vehicle and arrested the man on the roof, who they say is Calvin Hanks, who already had warrants out for his arrest. A suspect was arrested in an almost decade-old cold case. Mallory Vaughn arrested for the murder of 68-year-old Franklin Bonner. Mr. Bonner was discovered by his wife in 2009 in their ransacked home, dead, his face duct-taped. Bonner was a retired public works employee, but police say he also sold marijuana on the side and was known to have large amounts of cash in his house. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Eastridge police say that there was a shooting at the Newcastle Apartments just off Springvale Road. Police rushed to the scene and found the victim on his way to the hospital. They intercepted him and rushed him there themselves. Police say they found 2 vehicles riddled with bullets and shell casings in the home of the victim. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office says a woman called 911 telling them there was a man on the roof of her car trying to break in. Police intercepted the vehicle and arrested the man on the roof, who they say is Calvin Hanks, who already had warrants out for his arrest. A suspect was arrested in an almost decade-old cold case. Mallory Vaughn arrested for the murder of 68-year-old Franklin Bonner. Mr. Bonner was discovered by his wife in 2009 in their ransacked home, dead, his face duct-taped. Bonner was a retired public works employee, but police say he also sold marijuana on the side and was known to have large amounts of cash in his house. Russell Stroud, Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Chattanooga weather. Any lingering showers will gradually diminish through your nighttime. Muggy overnight with some late fog, lows near 70. Now for your Thursday, partly cloudy, highs 88 to 90. Could see an isolated shower storm, then they'll move on to the south, hotter and drier. Friday, more sun, lower 90s. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special world famous sauce. Open daily, locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's, it's always good. And I'm Sworn E12, she's meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done?
Yep, they're filed in the cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
Wow, Triumph Spitfire. I haven't seen one of those in ages. Boy, is it gorgeous.
Thanks. It was my grandfather's. Drives like a dream.
Where do you go to keep it up?
Rivermont Pure. I never thought I'd find a place, but they specialize in older and European cars. They get the hard-to-find parts and treat me right every time.
Rivermont Pure?
Yeah, they're on Hickson Pike across from Lupton Drive. I found them online at rivermontpureservice.com.
Rivermont Pure, import or domestic. If it rolls, they work it.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7. Sean Hannity, 25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. CBS Radio News. NASCAR, Bloomberg Markets, David Toulis, streaming strong at NugaRadio.com. Live on YouTube and Facebook. Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7. Chattanooga Radio.
Hello. Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots. They touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward, Yankee.
What's the hassle, Schmassel?
My orders from General Lee is to hold the Macy-Dixie line, and no Yankees are crossing it.
You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. The U.S. Open coming up starting tomorrow. And, of course, that means we have to talk about Tiger Woods. But I feel like talking about Tiger Woods is a whole lot less of an insult now than what it was at the beginning of the season, where a lot of it was, is Tiger any good? We don't know if Tiger's any good. I feel like we're all guessing about how good Tiger Woods actually is. And you know what? Now the conversation is, does Tiger Woods have a legitimate chance to win? Because if you've been watching Tiger Woods throughout the season, you'd have to say, yes, he does. And the U.S. Open this year is going to be at Shinnecock, as opposed to where it was last year in Wisconsin, where you had a guy like Brooks Koepka win it. And I don't want to make this sound like I'm bashing Brooks Koepka, but I didn't know who Brooks Koepka was until he won the U.S. Open last year. And that course, it wasn't so much about maneuvering the greens. You could really overpower the course. And if you've ever seen Brooks Koepka play golf, and now I have paid more attention to Brooks Koepka since he has won the U.S. Open, Brooks Koepka is a powerful guy. He just sprays the ball everywhere. Like, that guy's a howitzer. He is a howitzer when he hits the ball. And he overpowered the course. You can't do that at Shinnecock. In fact, Shinnecock is such a difficult course. Nobody likes it. But the last time they were at Shinnecock was 2004. And everybody on tour was complaining about Shinnecock. Now, I don't know exactly all the changes that have been made. I'm not a golf course analyst, but there have been a lot of changes made to that golf course, hopefully to make it more watchable this time around. But this is a course that if Tiger Woods is putting well, because he's hitting the ball well, as far as hitting the ball for distance goes, Tiger still got it. And so far as even a lot of the other aspects of his game, when he gets into traps, how he gets out of those, working around the green. But when he is his short game, that's what really needs to come back for Tiger Woods. And that's the thing that he has been missing a whole lot of is the short game, which is something that Tiger Woods used to excel at. And if he wants to win this or win a major ever again, because he has been playing well, and you have to suspect that Tiger Woods could probably win another major, maybe 2, before his career is over. If he wants to win a major ever again, he's going to have to rectify those issues putting the ball. Here's a great course to start because it's going to be difficult. It's going to weed out a lot of the competition. And if you play well, you have an opportunity to really run away with this thing in a way that nobody else actually is. And that, to me, is very promising. I look forward to that when it comes to watching Tiger Woods this weekend, seeing how he figures out the short game. And there are a lot of guys, by the way, on tour with a lot of stuff to work out. Rory's got things to work out. Rory's got to work out everything, it feels like. I mean, he had such a great showing at the Masters, and I haven't really believed in Rory since then. And Jordan Spieth, who is my guy. I like Jordan Spieth a lot. And he's struggled. I mean, he's really struggled. Last weekend, he struggled at the Invitational. I don't know if you're Jordan Spieth to what degree. A lot of this is just mental. I mean, over the weekend, someone took a picture while he was putting, or I think it was 2 weeks ago. Someone took a picture while he was putting, and he turned around and said, "Hey, let's live in the moment, please." And I agree with that. I don't really like when people sort of whip out their cameras in those moments and distract the players, but I don't think Jordan Spieth would have had that moment a year ago or 2 years ago. This is a more recent development. A lot of the pressure is mounting because he has had so much success early that I think a lot of the pressure is mounting to stay great. And I think that's crazy because I don't think anyone's even questioning the greatness of Jordan Spieth. Like, I'm sorry, you guys, everybody. Tiger Woods is back to playing golf again, which means he's the headliner. He's the headliner. I don't think there's as much pressure as there used to be on a guy like Jordan Spieth. There isn't as much pressure as there used to be on a guy like Rory McIlroy. Like, this is where you have had the least pressure. If golfers, especially the young guys who have had now a certain degree of success and have to deal with the expectations that come with that, which I think is the hardest part of being a golfer. Once you win, especially if you're a young guy that people have expected to win and people see a lot in, coming back and meeting those expectations and even exceeding those expectations, that is where it gets crazy. That's where it gets to be crazy. And I wonder if some of these guys are going to be able to rebound in a kind of sort of way, in large part because what is being asked of them is to go out there and play golf at a very high level, but you're no longer carrying all the weight yourself. Tiger Woods is carrying a lot of the weight. And that, I think, is a testament, by the way, to the greatness of Tiger Woods. The Tiger Woods has been absolutely dreadful for the last 8 years, 9 years. We have an 8-9 year lull of Tiger Woods, and yet it seems to be he shows up, he shows any sign of being good at all, and we treat him like he's Tiger in his prime, and he's not. He's not. Tiger Woods is, like, once you cross 35 years old in golf, it's hard to win majors. It's one of the weirder things that we've seen in golf. Either you win a lot of your majors before you hit 35, or you win a lot of your majors after 35, but very rarely does somebody win a bunch of majors on both sides of 35 years old? Part of it is either you're very athletic and you're very talented early, and then as your body breaks down, you can't seem to keep up with the ways that you used to play golf. And then the other part of it is that maybe you didn't have the most talent early on, so you had to be a more savvy golfer, and your experience starts to kick in as you get older. But it seems to be that 35 years old is the demarcation point of that, for whatever reason. And Tiger Woods won a lot of majors on one side of 35. He's only won one on this side of 35 years old, and we're still throwing these expectations on him as though he was a young guy, as though it's 1998 all over again, as though it's 2002 all over again. It's incredible, but also wild. And if you are a Jordan Spieth, a Rory McIlroy, Ricky Fowler, Jason Day, any of these younger guys, Tiger Woods is taking the pressure off of you. It's not that anyone doesn't expect these guys to win. It's that people want Tiger to win so bad and see the level of greatness that he has once achieved, that all the pressure goes on him. Even though it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical how much pressure Tiger Woods has on him. Like, it's truly illogical. And yet here he is, carrying all of it. And so I think that helps if you're Jordan Spieth. I think that helps if you're Rory McIlroy. Of course it does. Golf is a game that you play, and a lot of it is playing against yourself, against the pressure. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com. Here on 92.7 FM. I'm going to shift gears here to the NBA. Back on over to the NBA. But don't worry, we're not talking about LeBron this time. We get to go back to our good old friend, our boy, Brian Colangelo. Brian Colangelo, who got fired. Well, they parted ways. But to me, it was one of those situations of the Sixers didn't really want to pay him all the money, and so it was a jump so we don't have to push you kind of deal. I'm going to say fired, but they parted ways, because that's what sounds nicer in a press release, is that Brian Colangelo and the Philadelphia 76ers have decided to part ways. Because Brian Colangelo or his wife allegedly had burner accounts on Twitter, and they used very personal information, bashed a number of the players and scouts on the team, as well as people no longer in the organization or no longer working with Brian Colangelo, guys like Sam Hinkie and the GM of the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri, and it seems particularly unfair. And so, of course, he got fired, because you have to fire that guy. But there's a bunch of things popping up now that, of course, this stuff always pops up after the fact. But there's a bunch of stuff popping up, like the story about Markelle Fultz and the 76ers, which when they drafted Markelle Fultz with the pick that they traded up to get, it seemed like a great pick at the time, and a lot of people praised the pick. I was one of those people, because I saw Markelle Fultz play in college, not live. I went back and watched his tape, because he played in Washington, in the University of Washington. That team, A, did not make the NCAA tournament, and B, they're on the West Coast. So they're playing at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Well, that's, 10, 11, midnight. It's 1 o'clock here. I'm not staying up to watch Markelle Fultz in the middle of the night. I love basketball. I love basketball that much. But when I saw him play, I thought, this guy's really good, and he's got the potential to be a very dynamic scorer. But Markelle Fultz had injured his shoulder, and that was something that was not widely known, to the extent of the damage. And so when the Sixers saw his workout, around the organization, a lot of the scouts said, don't draft him. His shoulder doesn't look good. He doesn't look good because of the shoulder. Don't draft him. Take a look at Lonzo Ball. Take a look at Jason Tatum. Those were the other two guys in the top three in the lottery. And Brian Colangelo drafts Markelle Fultz anyway. Lonzo Ball turns out to be everything advertised for the Lakers. It took a while. He started the season slow, but he turned out to be everything that was advertised. A brilliant playmaker, a good passer. He's got great vision. The three-point shot took a while to get going for him, but it did get going. And you look at a guy like Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was looking like a vet in the playoffs. Jason Tatum didn't just look like a good guy. He looked like the guy. Jason Tatum looked so good. If Kyrie Irving never comes back to the Boston Celtics, they're actually fine. If Gordon Hayward never gets back to his previous form, they're fine. Because that's how good Jason Tatum looked in the playoffs. And the Sixers could have had either of those guys. Instead, the Sixers have Markelle Fultz, whose shoulder was messed up. Apparently, nobody decided to reach out to Markelle Fultz over the summer between when they drafted him and when the season began. And Markelle Fultz, legitimately, and I've never seen or heard this before in my entire life, and I'm sure neither have you, Markelle Fultz legitimately forgot how to shoot a basketball. And I understand why. Like, the doctors were saying his shoulder was so messed up, he was overcompensating for the shoulder, and he changed his shot, not to make it a better shot, but to make it more comfortable to actually shoot the ball. But if you have someone from your training staff, a training coach, somebody step in and say, hey, don't shoot the ball like that. What are you doing, kiddo? Don't shoot the ball like that. But nobody did that. Nobody apparently reached out to Markelle Fultz, and by the time he came back to start the season, he had ruined his shot to the point where even when he finally did get healthy and he finally did get beyond the shoulder, his shot was broken. He actually could not accurately shoot a basketball anymore. He had this weird hitch when he would come up and shoot his free throws. I've never seen this before in my life. I've never seen a guy who plays hockey forget how to play hockey. I mean, I've never seen a guy who was playing soccer injure himself, come back, and forget how to play soccer. Like, say you come back and maybe you're not as good. That's a thing. But he actually forgot how to shoot. When have you ever seen that before in your whole life? Because I haven't. He forgot. And the 76ers and their scouts were trying to tell Brian Colangelo, listen, he doesn't look right. Don't draft him. And they drafted him. They could have had Lonzo Ball playing alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They could have had Jason Tatum playing alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Instead, they got Markelle Fultz, who may turn out to be a decent player yet, but who spent the majority of his time on the bench because he forgot how to shoot a basketball. You're listening to all new Nuga Radio and NugaRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. So I was watching baseball the other day. The Braves just manhandling the Mets, just beating them to death. And on one hand, you think to yourself, well, it's the Mets. You want to be surprised, but the Mets have been terrible. The Mets have been really, really bad. And they're wasting talent. And here's how I know they're wasting talent. Their ace, Jacob deGrom, who is a brilliant pitcher, has an otherworldly ERA in his last 10 starts. He has a sub-1 ERA. His ERA is .87. Not even one earned run per game in his last 10 starts. How many of those games do you think the Mets actually won? With an ace in his last 10 starts, who is allowing less, I tell you, than one run per game. How many of those games do you think the Mets actually won? They won 2 out of 10. Ladies and gentlemen, the New York Mets. Step right up and meet the Mets. This is the biggest waste of talent I have ever seen since Larry Fitzgerald. This right here is the biggest waste of talent since Barry Sanders on the Lions. This is a fundamental waste of talent, the likes of which I don't know if we have ever seen before. Where you have a guy that good and you cannot win ball games. You can't win ball games because your team cannot hit more than a run per game. The Mets can't score. You have elite pitching like that. Guy has 10 starts. If he has a sub-1 ERA, that guy should win every game. And if you told me, well, okay, the team's bad, but like Keon, they're really bad. They're really, really bad. When I go, okay, maybe they don't win every game. Maybe they win 6 out of 10. But no, they're really, really bad. Okay, well then maybe they win 4 out of 10. But 2 out of 10? Who would guess 2 out of 10? I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a baseball team look as defeated and lost offensively as the Mets. And I say this when in the same league, we have the AL Central. Like the AL Central, as an entire division of baseball, looks lost. They just look gone. They can't score. None of those teams. Like the Tigers look done. Brewers look done. I mean, that whole division is bad at offense. And the Mets look like they should be playing right there with them, to be honest with you. It's truly atrocious baseball. And the Braves, to their credit, the Braves have been scoring on just about everybody. They took apart the Mets in the last couple of games. And my only question is, what on earth has gotten into Freddie Freeman? Well, like I thought that, well, you know, Bryce Harper's going to rule the National League for like the next few years. He is far and away its best player. But he's having a really bad batting average year, even though his on-base percentage is insane because he gets walked a ton. He got walked twice yesterday, and he got hit by pitches twice. People don't want to pitch at Bryce Harper. As it's starting to come up to the fact that it's a very bad idea to pitch in the general direction of Bryce Harper. And he's not going to win the MVP this year because of the batting average numbers. And he trails Freddie Freeman in that department. Freddie Freeman looks like a bona fide monster. Now, we all knew he was good. Here's the thing about Freddie Freeman. It's not like we didn't know that the dude could play. But it's not just that the dude can play. It's that he looks like the best player in the National League. And if you ended the season today, you would have to give the National League MVP award to Freddie Freeman. How wouldn't you? And that's aside from everything else that the Braves were doing well. The Atlanta Braves have had a big season from a lot of their young guys. Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, right? And they're old guys too, right? Like Mark Hickes is even having a great season. Who knew? Mike Soroka, the pitcher, he's another one of the young guys having a really good season for them that they called up. I mean, the Braves, it looks like they can't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter who they call up. If they call up the guy, he succeeds. It doesn't matter if they sign somebody who's way too old, like Nick Markakis, who looks like he's being held together by gum. Still succeeding. Who knew? Who knew? So, of course, Freddie Freeman, who's been here for a little bit, has looked good. He doesn't just look good this year. He looks brilliant. At the end of the season today, you'd have to give the MVP award to Freddie Freeman. You'd have no choice if you actually like baseball. You're listening to All New Nougat Radio, NougatRadio.com here on 92.7 FM. Join Nougat Radio 92.7 FM as we will be broadcasting live during the 36th Annual Chattanooga Waterfront Triathlon on Saturday, June 23rd and Sunday, June 24th. in downtown Chattanooga. Nooga Radio will be broadcasting at the Expo on Saturday and on Sunday from throughout the course of this event. So come on out and visit us at this huge event. Sam Jordan will be broadcasting on a bicycle. I have it on good authority that that's actually going to happen. The Nooga Radio Hummer will be there and decked out in all of its bright, blinding yellow glory. You're going to want to see that. Because no one drives Hummers anymore. We're going to take you all the way back to 2003. Remind you of the good times. You're just guzzling gasoline. We're back. So, yeah, Sam Jordan will be doing the show on a bicycle. For those of you who would like to know. He is 100% going to be doing that on a bike. Sam Jordan is in his 50s. I want to see this. I know you want to see this. Sam has not ridden a bicycle in about a couple of decades. And so we're going to test the age-old axiom. Is learning a bike something you cannot forget how to do? And people say it. How can you forget to do that? It's just like riding a bike. And we'll find out. Does that even make sense as a figure of speech? Possibly, but we don't know that. So, Freddie Freeman is the best player in the National League as of this moment, which I'm a Nationals fan, and it hurts me lots to say. Which brings me to Bryce Harper, who will probably still be the second. Even though he's not batting very well, he's still got an ungodly on-base percentage. People still don't want to pitch at him. He's still carrying the team offensively because the Nats have just had a slew of injuries this year, and it's been a tough year for that squad. And I think part of it must be made more painful by the fact that the Braves are actually good. You cannot coast through this season now because the Nats have had trouble with injuries in the past and they've overcome it in large part because the Braves have been bad and the Mets have been bad and the Phillies have been bad and the Marlins are still bad. But now the Phillies are pretty good. That manager of theirs, Dave Kepler, he's not great, but the Phillies talent-wise are pretty good. And the Mets have great pitching, as I mentioned before, even though they can't hit. And the Braves are brilliant right now. So if you're the Nationals, this is the worst season for you to be having your worst season. And they are having one of their worst seasons. And Bryce Harper got hit and had to leave the game yesterday. Right, and it looked pretty bad. And that's the one bright, shining spot for this team. And there was an anonymous National League scout who said that Bryce Harper is a selfish player and a loser. And that seems pretty crazy to me. By what definition is Bryce Harper actually a loser? How is he a loser?
WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nooga Radio.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Pam Coulter. About a week after Chief of Staff John Kelly reportedly